Head-to-head mock draft time. It's your NFC North edition, all brought to you by Legendary GM. All right, here's what we did. 2 independent 3-round mock drafts. Tried to keep it realistic with players that we like. Let's start with the Detroit Lions with the number 8 overall pick. We went a couple different ways. I went Greedy Williams, the cornerback from LSU. Feels like my perfect fit for the Lions, a man coverage corner for one of the most man-heavy teams in the entire NFL, where you decided to go edge, which I don't hate, with Brian Burns.
Yeah, you've always loved that Greedy Williams fit. I think they can find corner later in the draft, as we'll see with my picks, but they won't be able to find an edge quite like Brian Burns, what he brings to the table athletically across from Trey Flowers. That would be a fun pairing there in Detroit. Definitely a big need, and I think Brian Burns, I think he fills it.
We filled needs just in kind of reverse order, but I went a little bit differently, though, in round 2. I went Marquise Brown, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. There is a realistic shot that he is there at number 43 overall, and I think adding that weapon, deep threat, speed, perhaps some slot potential. We saw what happened to Matthew Stafford. With no Golden Tate, he needs a guy like Marquise Brown to open things up.
Yeah, I like him in a 3 wide receiver type of team. Someone with 2 wide receivers already in place, so he can run the slot. He can be that sort of move weapon in your offense. That would make a lot of sense for them. I went cornerback, and I doubled up on cornerback in day 2 there. Julian Love, I think just someone who is solid across from Darius Slay, could also play the slot, whereas Jamel Dean, probably an outside corner only, but another press man corner. That's where he's at his best. Freakish athleticism, 4.31 speed would pair nicely there in that defense.
Your strategy worked out. You said edge first, and then you'll find corners.
Yes.
I circled back to edge with Anthony Nelson, a guy that I'm just going to give to all Belichick disciples. I think he's a perfect fit there.
Yes.
This power edge that can compress the pocket more than winning with quicks off the edge, but he's got a ton of size, and I think he's not too similar to Trey Flowers, but they do have some similarities as far as style.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the guy who they both can play interior, both can play exterior, and the versatility makes a lot of sense for Detroit's defense.
All right, let's move on to the Green Bay Packers. They've got 4 picks over the first 2 days of the draft. I went a little crazy here. DK Metcalf was on the board at pick number 12. I haven't seen a ton of this for the Green Bay Packers, but
I don't think it's crazy. No, I don't think it is.
But like that speed, like could you imagine that body control that he has with Aaron Rodgers? We talked about DK Metcalf, the one guy that we say maybe has some upside that doesn't back up with the PFF grade. You pair him with Aaron Rodgers, you're going to get the most out of DK Metcalf's skill set.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting position. It would be, there would be a lot of highlight reel type plays coming out of that offense with DK Metcalf in it. But the connection between him, what he can do in terms of accuracy down the field, would love to see that. I went Jonah Williams. I just think Aaron Rodgers, if he just has an offensive line in front of him that's very solid in pass protection, he'll be able to make plays, whether it's with his feet or with some more time there in the pocket. So Jonah Williams would be an upgrade for them wherever he plays along that offensive line. Probably guard to begin with, maybe the right tackle of the future.
And this next spot is where the Packers could really win the draft. They pick at 30th overall and then 44th overall. I'm going Dalton Reisner with pick 30 because he was still there on my board.
Yeah,
that was a best player available type of pick. Same reason you just said for Jonah Williams, and he could play all along the offensive line. Then I went Darnell Savage, the speedy safety, at number 44 overall, which I see that you did as well.
We both did, yeah.
So really smart by you at number 44. But you went Jeffrey Simmons at number 30, the Mississippi State interior D lineman.
Yeah, they still need to fill that position across from Mike Daniels, the other defensive end position there. A little longer guy, Simmons, and I think you'll either go to a team that's in complete rebuild mode or a team that knows they're going to make the playoffs, can get themselves, if it's the top, it's somewhere in the late first round, can buy themselves a top 10 player that comes back towards the end of the season. That could be someone like Green Bay.
And then in the 3rd round, 2 of our favorite players that happen to be available at this point that we're much higher on. Tavon Coney, for me, the linebacker out of Notre Dame, I think fills a need, a guy that could be that next coverage linebacker for the Packers that they've kind of coveted over the last couple of years. You're going J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, the next.
Jordy Nelson. I gave him the Jordy Nelson comp, and I think he's very similar to that in terms of he's just so incredibly sure-handed and so incredible at the catch point. I think he would build Aaron Rodgers' trust pretty quick out the gate.
Quick break to tell you about our friends over at Legendary GM. The Pro Football Draft is coming up on April 25th, a special time for fans and a frustrating time for many hardcore fans who know the draft could have gone better for their team. Did you ever question your general manager's draft selections? Have you ever said, I could have drafted better than this? Introducing Legendary GM, the first ever platform that allows you to draft for any pro football team. Draft against your GM and draft against your friends to see who knows best. Legendary GM is simple, fun, and will give you bragging rights for years to come. Unlike traditional fantasy football, Legendary GM is easy to set up and manage. Draft players your team really needs and get rewarded when your players perform during the season. finally, there's an alternative to traditional fantasy football. So what are you waiting for? Prove you know better than the pros, the experts, and your friends. Go to legendarygm.com now to sign up. And if you use the promo code PFF, you can invite up to 9 additional friends to play for free until the start of the regular season of the NFL. That's legendarygm.com. All right, moving on to the Minnesota Vikings. I think everybody's pegging them with an offensive lineman in the first round. I don't think you have to draft an offensive lineman, but the way the draft seems to fall, there is good value. I'm grabbing Jonah Williams from Alabama. You're taking Andre Dillard from Washington State.
Yeah, we don't endorse drafting for need, but the Vikings are in this sort of lucky position where there's so many good offensive tackles available in the first round that they're just bound to get one of them. And so we both took one. You got Jonah Williams, who probably would start at guard. Andre Dillard would probably start at tackle, and they'd probably kick Riley Reef into guard.
And I think Jonah Williams will eventually become the tackle there anyway. And then I'm doubling up. I'm going guard Chris Lindstrom, who is one of the better pass protectors in the draft at guard. A lot of question marks on the interior for the Minnesota Vikings. If they're going to maximize the Kirk Cousins 2-year contract now, that's all he has left. They have to act immediately.
Getting 2 would not be a problem there for them with how big of an issue it is. I went LJ Collier on the edge. We saw what happened with Everson Griffin a season ago. Off the field issues, but then even when he was on the field, it was affecting his play. Was not the same player we had seen in years past. So LJ Collier could be that guy and kick inside on third downs, add some to that pass rush.
And then I'm going edge with Ja'Kai Polite, who I think would be good value there at number 81. He'll show up at a couple of my 3-round mocks in round 3. You're going Jay Sternberger at tight end. I like that value there as well.
Yeah, the value fits there and just a little more dynamic than what Kyle Rudolph is. Rudolph, not a ton of athleticism in his game at this point, just a sure-handed threat there at tight end. Sternberger, much more of a downfield threat.
And then the Chicago Bears only have 1 pick in the first 3 rounds. It's number 87. Have to make the best of it. I'm going Max Crosby. I think that'd be a great fit for them on the edge, continue to build some depth outside opposite Khalil Mack with Leonard Floyd, especially at 87 overall.
Yeah, I like the fit there because, like I said, Leonard Floyd has just not developed into a pass rushing threat across him. Khalil Mack needs someone to take advantage of the double teams that he's going to get. I want Amani Hooker. Obviously, safety, they filled it with HaHa Clinton-Dix this past offseason, but slot corner also a bit of an issue there, but they filled it with Buster Screen. So Amani Hooker actually kind of played both for Iowa. He was a slot safety sort of hybrid, so he can fill in even maybe it's like dime backer. You can find a role for him in that defense, and I think he fits perfectly with those zone coverages there.
One of our favorite players in the draft, more of a second-round player for us, so good value if he's available in the 3rd. So there you have it. It's our NFC North head-to-head mock draft, all brought to you by Legendary GM.